Hello, everybody, and welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And Super Wild Card Weekend has come and gone, and now 8 teams remain. There were a couple that got knocked out, a few upsets, but Tim, you ready to recap these games?
Let's run it.
First, let's go over how we did on predictions. Yeah, Tim, you're dancing. Keep on dancing because personally, I went 3-3. I was okay. Just all right. But Tim, how did you do?
Undefeated. And this time, by being undefeated, I actually won all the games I predicted.
You actually won all
Instead of going 0-0, I went 6-0.
That
so
you did.
particularly proud of that.
That's something that you should most definitely be proud of.
We'll see if I can keep that up throughout the playoffs, though. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge. So let's get underway. The first game that we had was the Vegas Raiders and the Cincinnati Bengals. I picked the Raiders, got that one wrong. The Bengals won by a score of 26-19, their first playoff win since 1991. So now you can finally send those text messages that the Bengals won a playoff game, because the last time they won a playoff game, cell phones were not invented. But in my opinion, I don't think the game was necessarily as close as the score reflected, because Cincinnati had a relatively easy time driving the ball down the field, is where Vegas, they made the most of their opportunities, but they didn't get many opportunities in their own half of the field anyway. I mean, Vegas was playing from behind the whole game. Derek Carr threw 54 passes. And I mean, he played okay. 29-54 for 310 yards, a touchdown, an interception. But okay wasn't going to cut it. He needed to play great, and that's not quite what they got. And they had a chance to win it at the end, but Derek Carr on the very, very last play of the game threw an interception to linebacker Jermaine Pratt to seal the deal. And Cincinnati is moving on to play Tennessee.
Yeah, it was, like you said, it definitely wasn't quite as close of a game as the score showed. Cincinnati jumped on them early and really had their way with the Raiders defense, at least, especially. Jamar Chase once again picked up right where he left off. 9 receptions, 116 yards, as well as 3 carries for 23 yards on the ground. So the Bengals offense looked really, really solid. Burrow looked very composed in his first ever playoff game. And interesting thing to note is it was Carr's first playoff game as well, because an injury kept him out of his first opportunity. So he didn't look bad, but it just wasn't enough to get it done. One, I think, interesting point was I thought they could have ran the ball more down the stretch. Granted, like you said, they're playing from behind the whole game, but Josh Jacobs had 13 carries for 83 yards, so 6.4 yards per carry, very solid. Now, granted, those numbers were boosted by a 35-yard run in the second half, but overall, the Raiders just didn't have enough in the tank to keep up with the Bengals and their high-powered offense that they showed off, and just wasn't enough to pull them all the way back.
Nope. Next game after that was the AFC East rematch. Both of us got this right. Buffalo defeated the New England Patriots 47-17. And the Patriots got walloped, absolutely walloped. The most points that a Bill Belichick-led team has ever given up, ever.
In a playoff game.
And it was over very, very quickly. I mean, it was 27-3 at the half, and it was just complete and utter domination from Buffalo. And the easiest way for me to describe this game is both quarterbacks played like what they are. Josh Allen is an all-pro. He's a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he played like it. Mac Jones is a rookie in his first ever playoff start, and he played like it. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills were darn near perfect. In 51 offensive snaps, 480 yards of total offense. I mean, Josh Allen himself, 21 of 25, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QBR that was 1.5 points away from perfection. 98.5. QBR is on a scale from 0 to 100. That's how good Josh Allen was in this game. And Buffalo absolutely rolled him.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I will give Mac Jones credit. He did not make a ton of, I would say, outward mistakes that rookie quarterbacks often make, especially in their first playoff game. For instance, his first interception on their first drive, he drove him down the field particularly well. It was an incredible pick by Micah Hyde in the end zone on a deep ball to Nelson Aguilar.
I miss Micah Hyde.
But but on the flip side, Josh Allen just looked like perfection. Not only was he so efficient through the air, he had more touchdown passes than he had incomplete passes. That is incredible. And there was just nothing that the Patriots could do. Not only, of course, did Josh Allen pick him apart through the air, but he also scrambled 6 times for 66 yards. So even when they did get some pressure on him, Allen knew exactly where to go and escape. And we've always known that he's a very good runner and a very solid, bulky guy. So he's not afraid to take some hits as well to try to get a few extra ones. So it was complete and utter domination. I will give credit to the Patriots and Mac Jones and Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
They put together a hell of a season, given kind of like what they were given at the beginning of the season. But it just was not going to be enough against this Bills team, which was very obvious.
Well, here's the thing that I want to talk about Mac Jones. After the game, I saw a lot of Mac Jones flack on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media. I don't think Mac Jones played that terrible. He definitely wasn't as terrible as everybody.
I didn't think he did either.
He wasn't as terrible as everybody made it seem. And I think, like, especially Patriots fans, what they have to realize is when you have Tom Brady for 20 years, you get a little bit spoiled, and that's okay.
The expectations are very high.
That's okay coming from a guy whose favorite team has had 2 consecutive Hall of Fame quarterbacks. I understand what it's like to be spoiled at the quarterback position. But I think we just have to take a step back and realize that Mac Jones is just a rookie. He's still developing. You got to give him a lot of time. There are very few quarterbacks that's 1 in a million that goes out there and they're just slinging it all over the field. Their first season as a rookie. I mean, Justin Herbert is really the only one that really torched the league as a rookie. Everybody else had struggles. I mean, if you look at the rookie class, Trevor Lawrence looked awful. Zach Wilson, it took him half the season and an injury to finally figure out how to play football. Justin Fields stinks. Davis Mills, there's something there, but I mean, he's still struggled a little bit. So when you look at like these rookie quarterbacks, you got to take a step back and put it in perspective. Say, all right, they're rookies. Give him a tad bit potential, more time. He needs more time. So that's all I got to say about this game. And so we'll be moving on to the next one, where we go to Tom Brady's new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defeating the Philadelphia Eagles on their home turf, 31-15. And although this is only a 2-score game, Tampa Bay had them shut out through 3 quarters, 31-0. The Eagles couldn't do anything. They couldn't do jack diddly squat against Tampa Bay. Jalen Hurts, he couldn't run. They couldn't establish the run. They abandoned the run really early. Jalen Hurts was uncomfortable throwing the ball. He didn't look good throwing the ball. And Tampa Bay just absolutely put on a clinic. And they had their foot on their throats for the first 3 quarters. And then they decided to let up a little bit in the fourth. That's when they got their 2 garbage time touchdowns. But at the end of the day, it was still very, very far out of reach. You know, the key cogs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady, he picked apart the Eagles like he always does. Mike Evans had himself a day. Same thing with Gronk. And Tampa Bay was just, put pure and simple, the better team.
Yeah, it was pretty blatantly obvious throughout the game. Like you said, the Eagles got dominated through the first 3. Overall, the stat line for Hurts, it shows a little bit better, I think, than what he actually did. He had some good plays in there. You had a couple highlight plays, but there was a whole lot of negative to outweigh that. Like you said, they're for being the number 1 rushing team in the league throughout the season. Their rushing game got completely dominated and essentially nullified from the game. And playoff Brady was playoff Brady. Very efficient. He spread the ball out to a lot of guys, but also he kind of honed in on some of his favorite targets that he has that real connection with Mike Evans and Gronk. And the one thing, I mean, I have to give at least a little bit of credit to the Eagles defensive line. They did put some pressure on Brady and actually sacked him 4 times. So despite them kind of getting picked apart, they at least did get some pressure to him. It's just the rest of the pieces didn't fit together.
They slowed him down a little bit, but it couldn't.
But there was no stopping him in this game.
Yeah. And
once again, Bucs move on.
And something else that I want to talk about like you said, the Eagles had the number one rushing offense in the NFL coming in. You don't run on Tampa Bay. I think this is more about Tampa Bay's defense stepping up and being that stalwart unit that they were. I mean, they had some help returning, Jason Pierre-Paul, Levante David, Shaq Barrett. I mean, those are guys that
They're
were
getting guys back at the right time.
sorely missed. And gosh, their leading rusher was Jalen Hurts, and he only had 39 yards on the ground. I mean, Boston Scott had one rush that went for a touchdown. Miles Sanders, there was absolutely nothing for him. Kenny Gainwell, they didn't even try to run with Kenny Gainwell. And
they were too far behind at that point.
For me, it's more about Tampa Bay's defense showing up and shutting down Philadelphia than it was just Tom Brady putting on a masterclass. I mean, Tom Brady played well, but I mean, gosh,
but the rest of the team allowed him to not have to play any better than that. He didn't have to do anything more.
Yeah, Tampa Bay, they move on, and they're going to play. Who are they playing? They're playing the Rams. That's right.
Yeah, they're playing the Rams.
Tampa, and LA. It should be a fun one. After that, we have Tim's upset that he picked correctly, but not for the right reason. We'll get into that later. San Francisco and Dallas. The 49ers came away 23-17, and the Niners pulled it off. I didn't think they would, but God damn, did Dallas shoot themselves in the foot. 14 penalties, 89 yards, which is the most in Cowboys playoff history. And we got to talk about the final drive. We have to. Dallas was playing so well. They were down 16. They came all the way back to within one score. You go boom, 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 40 yards in 3 plays. And then with 14 seconds left, you decide to run a quarterback draw with Dak Prescott, and you have no timeouts, and they can't get the ball. They can't spike it in time. Tim, I want to hear your thoughts on that particular play before I sound off, because I got some takes.
It was a very interesting play call, because I do somewhat understand the idea behind it. I see the idea that everybody's dropping and that you want to just get some yards up there, but you have 14 seconds left. And what they didn't count for is the fact of how long it can take when you're not 100% efficient to get the ball back on the line to spike it. And there was a little bit of the controversy with the official getting in the way there, but that is the rule. The official has to set the ball to set the starting point. Yeah. So they have no grounds to complain there. I still think it was a terrible call. I can see some of the point of view, but it's a really, really risky call, and they completely shot themselves in the foot because of it.
Well, they didn't just shoot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the chest and went, "Oh my God, we died." What?
They killed themselves in that one. Yeah. There was nothing else they could do.
Dallas, they can complain that, the umpire got in the way. The referee has to spot the ball himself. Dak cannot spot the ball.
No. And Dak can't, the center can't, nobody can other than the official.
And I mean, for Coach Mike McCarthy and Dak to defend it, I mean, good on them. That's what you'd want them to say. But for me, watching Mike McCarthy doing that, Coach Mack, that drive was going a little bit too well. And I'm like, when's the other shoe?
Something's going to go wrong.
When's the other shoe going to fall? And I'm like, I was quite frankly at a loss for words as to why they did that. And I think that's pretty much the game in a nutshell. Dallas lost more so than San Francisco beat them. But that's all I got for this game. San Francisco will go to the frozen tundra to play at Green Bay, and they're going to lose. I'm calling it right now. I'm kidding. TBD.
We'll get back to that one.
We'll get back to that one in our divisional round prediction video. Anyway, Pittsburgh and Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. Bye-bye, Big Ben. That is all I got to say. It was the first quarter was a whole lot of blah. Kansas City was asleep.
There was not much fun to see in that first quarter.
Kansas City was sleepwalking. Pittsburgh was also sleepwalking. And then TJ Watt rumbled for the scoop and score touchdown. And then Patrick Mahomes got angry. And you would not like Patrick Mahomes when he is angry.
Don't make the slightly small, scrawny red man angry.
Don't make Kermit the Frog angry, because Kermit the Frog will throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns and torch your entire defense and send your quarterback into retirement. And that is all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, complete blowout once the Chiefs remembered how they got back to Super Bowls year in and year out. Mahomes was incredible. Neither team had a fantastic day running ball, but the difference was the Steelers needed their run game and the Chiefs didn't. The Steelers desperately needed to have some type of run game, and they could not get anything going throughout the day. But for Kansas City, receivers picked up the slack. They had 4 separate receivers totaling over 50 yards receiving, wherein they also had 2 others that were relatively close. So once again, as Big Ben predicted, the Steelers really didn't have much of a chance. They were no match for the Chiefs in almost every category. But I will give Big Ben credit. He went out valiantly. It was not one of his worst performances.
Valiantly, question mark?
We've seen much worse out of him this year.
Yes, we have. So
all in all, he tried.
Take your participation.
He went out there and had fun.
Yeah, take your participation trophy, take your Hall of Fame bust, and go live your life how you want to live at Big Ben, because he's had a hell of a career. After that, we have the Monday night game, the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams.
This was an interesting one.
Another blowout, 34-11. The Rams took it to them, and oh boy, was I wrong about. Let's go back to our NFC predictions video when I said Matthew Stafford is going to be the one that doesn't make the mistakes. And the mistakes other way around. Kyler Murray
killed the Cardinals in this one.
Kyler Murray looked like a deer in headlights. He had no idea what he was doing. He had zero clue of how to do a football. And Matthew Stafford, they didn't need him to do well, but he did anyway. You know, he only threw 17 passes because the Rams dominated for so long. And I think this is another case of the Rams defense sending Kyler Murray into a tailspin. And like the key play that I look at was that pick 6 that he threw to David Long Jr. I mean, you're in the end zone, you're trying to get out of a sack, so you throw it in the air somewhere, and quite literally.
Yeah. Not a pretty one, to say the least.
No, and David Long is waltzing into the end zone for a touchdown. And I mean, congratulations to Matthew Stafford. He did what he could never do in Detroit. He had his first playoff win. It took him a long time and to get out of the dungeon that is Detroit to do it, but congratulations to him. And the Rams are going on to play the Bucs in a regular season rematch, which should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a fun one. You saw a lot of uncharacteristic things, I think, out of the Cardinals in this game. First of all,
not Cliff Kingsbury, because Cliff Kingsbury collapses every
not necessarily Cliff Kingsbury, but out of what this team had the potential of doing. Their offense looked all sorts of out of whack. They could not get any running game established, which is what really helped them in their win over the Rams earlier on in the season. And Kyler definitely was not on the top of his game. There was a lot of times where Kyler throughout the season would be able to just pull magic out of his sleeves and find guys. In this game, he simply wasn't able to. But I will say, I do not put all of the blame on Kyler, not even the majority of the blame, because one of the things to note is that the Rams defensive line had him running for his life almost every pass, it seemed. It rarely seemed like he was able to get off a clean pass to somebody. Von Miller, Aaron Donald, even some other guys really got in there and made things really tough for him.
Yeah, you remember that Rams defense and you're like, Aaron Donald's here. You're going to have to account for that. Oh, crap, they have Leonard Floyd. Oh, crap, they have Von Miller.
They have Von Miller now.
Oh, my God, they have Jalen Ramsey. Oh, my God, Eric Weddle's back. And you're just like,
Yeah. All things put together, the Rams defense showed why they were considered one of the best defenses going into the season before the additions that they had. And Stafford looked comfortable. Obviously, like you said, they didn't need him to do a whole lot, but when he did do stuff, looked very comfortable. Didn't even start using Kupp really that much until probably like the second half of the game. I think it was probably really invigorating for Rams fans to see OBJ get involved early and often. I mean, he got the first touchdown of the game. So that's probably got to be pretty comfortable for them, is looking at the performances that they've gotten out of him since since getting him from the Browns, which kind of just shows that a lot of the narrative that OBJ was the problem in Cleveland was definitely a little biased, I think, and he's showing
That's a
some of his
topic for
ability.
another day. If you want to see that
Yes,
one, let us know. But
absolutely.
yeah, if I'm a Rams fan, I'm feeling pretty good about this Tampa Bay matchup, knowing that you
It
beat
looked
them
very
once in the
solid.
regular season and how good you looked. But I mean, that's pretty much all we got. We will be coming at you next time with divisional round predictions.
See
We'll
if
see
I
if
can keep up that undefeated
if
streak.
Tim can keep up his undefeated streak and see if I can get a
I'm
little
not
bit
going to be
of
too
500.
optimistic.
Yeah, but you got some fun games coming up, so keep on the lookout for those videos, and we'll be excited to watch those games, and I'm sure you will too. But until next time, we out.